it organically because we haven't.
You're listening to the 49 Carats podcast, a 49ers Goldmine production with Stephanie Sanchez.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another edition of the 49 Carats podcast. I'm your host, Steph. It is Thursday, December 19th. Another week in the life of a 49ers fan here, having a great time. Monica, it's good to have you back. You know, we couldn't do a show last week, but Thursday night game and all that, but glad to have you back. We have, I think, a lot to catch up on, right? On just where this team is at. It feels like every time we don't do a show,
it goes bad.
It goes bad. Like the previous show, we were kind of optimistic, right? And then suddenly here we are again. So I want to give you a chance to just kind of say anything you're feeling right now. Is there anything that you're just like, you have to vent about with this team?
Oh, where do I begin? But let's start with forever faithful, right? No matter what, this is what we do. This is how we ride. There's no changing teams. There's no second team. Not for me anyway. It is what it is. It's been the worst season I can recall in a long, like I don't remember a long time. Like, and this is where I like to go to a little bit of a spiritual Monica, right? Like this is a little bit of humble pie for 49er fans. We have been so used to being in the conversation. And I think I might have mentioned it before, that when we're not in the conversation and we're not in the top 5, it's so weird to me. Like, it's just weird to not be on the first 3 topics on First Take or, pardon the interrupt. Like, we're not even talked about right now unless it's like drama. And it's crazy to me. But I hold on to, all right, let's just get out of this season without a lot of injuries. Let's make sure our off season is taken care of. And hopefully we learn from last year's lessons. We cannot let these things go on, these contracts. Let's get everybody in the building, mini camp, training camp. Let's go. And let's host the Super Bowl. And maybe we host that 6th ring in Levi Stadium.
One day at a time, Monica. I mean, like,
no, I'm all there. I'm there, girl. I'm all the way there. I'm there next year. I'm there.
To be fair, we were also there to start this season too, and it just didn't go the way that we anticipated. I agree. It's different for the team to not be in that playoff conversation. I understand. I think there's still a 1% chance, and several many things would have to go right in order for the 49ers to, feasibly get into the playoffs. So in my mind,
we call it miracle season. If that happens, that would literally be known as the miracle season. Like, that's what it would be.
And in my mind, even if like that 1% chance did end up happening, right? They made it to the playoffs. Like, we know it's a first round exit, like just based on the way this team has been looking so far. So I don't want to talk playoffs. But it is strange, right? And in a way, it's somewhat refreshing. It's a little refreshing. I think what you said is true. It's humbling. I hope it's humbling to this locker room because, I mean, you gotta remember, like every year is different. You can have all the guys in the room and that's still not be enough. You can't just be who you are and be these good players. You have to be able to put it all together cohesively as a team. And that has not happened this year. So they could try again in 2025. But I think the break, having the full off season will be great for them, as, we've mentioned. As I've said many times, I'm looking forward to seeing different things out of this team, in these final 3 games. I want to see them from a different perspective. I've been begging to see more of Ricky Pearsall and Jacob Cowing, right? Like, do we finally get to see that this week? I think all those things are things I'm going to be watching for, heading into these final few games. But, what I want to talk about is Brock, right? We always kind of dabble in the Brock conversation, check in on our boy, see how he's doing.
Yeah.
I will say, like, as far as what Kyle Shanahan wants to see from Brock Purdy in these remaining games, I mean, he wants to just see him do what he does, just do his job, move the chains, protect the ball, get the ball to the right people when it's supposed to be, and help us win the game. That was a quote from Kyle Shanahan on what he wants to see from Brock in these remaining games. I think, Brock hasn't been the reason that look, I'll say this. I think we were hoping that Brock would be the reason that the team would win some games, and he hasn't been, right? Like, he hasn't been the reason that they've won a lot of these. Well, they haven't won a lot of games, but that's my point, right? Like, he hasn't been the one to like elevate them to those wins. He has struggled equally with the team, right? So I think that kind of tells you where he's at. Based on the game we saw this past week, like, I thought that was one of his worst performances. I don't think he had any touchdowns in that game.
None.
Like, just a little over 100 yards passing. It didn't look like the Brock, that we know. So what did you think about that performance against the Rams? And I know it was raining, for the better half of that game. Do you feel like that impacted him at all?
So, that game, it seems like so long ago already to me. I'm just like, oh, that
It was a while
whew,
ago, Thursday night.
that was, yeah, but it's
Week
one
ago.
of those that you, as a 49er fan, chalk up on that freaking board of, like, the NFC Championship drop pass, right? Could have had an interception. We could have won the game. I go back to these games with the Rams that are pivotal for us. And this is why the divisional games mean so much. And we have absolutely failed when it comes to those divisional games that we needed this year. I think everybody, even the Niners, would agree. Like, those losses really hurt us. This one was just a nail in the coffin, right? So there's a lot of talk about the weather. I swear to you, and I'm serious, Steph. If I'm Kyle, this off season, we send people to the moon. There's ways to make things happen. Okay. Every other week will bring the biggest movie crane you will see. And this shit is going to rain for half of minicamp and half of training camp. I do not want
Sounds like a plague.
No, let's do it. I don't want any more talk about these guys don't know how to play in the rain. Like, make it rain, make them practice, hold on to the ball. Like, because at the end of the day, we most likely to get into the Super Bowl are going to have to play in, weather that's not 80, 75 degrees.
Yep.
I mean, so we've got to be prepared for that. And or we send everybody up to New York or wherever it's cold in August, and let's take that off the table. How do we take the weather issue off the table? That's how I'm crazy like that. Like, I really would do that. I'm like, hey, bro, like, let's play in the rain today. Let's play in the rain today. Every other whatever, because so did the other team. Buffalo played in the snow with us. You know what I mean? We just can't have those, reasons of why we didn't win the game. And a lot of these guys come from, like Georgia's from Iowa. Last time I checked, I think it's cold in Iowa. So some of these players, and that, I think I said that even that game, I'm like, okay, well, if we know, like, we're in a cold environment, let's plan a little bit of our game around the guys that are used to being in the cold environment. But then you go back, well, yeah, but Georgia's been not in a cold environment for 8 years.
Your body adjusts.
Yeah, so you could just go back and forth. But at the end of the day, we need to find a way to win, whether it's in snow, rain, or 85 degrees.
Yeah, I agree. I think this narrative that Brock struggles in adverse weather conditions, it's hard to ignore and it's hard to argue against at this point. It has legs. It's true. It's been true. And so I get a little frustrated by the fact that it seems like before every game where we know it's going to rain or it's going to be really cold or it's going to snow, whatever, I feel like this team, Kyle in particular, like gets asked, like, are you going to do anything different to prepare for this? And it's like, no, like we're just going to do, we're going to do the same thing.
Right.
And I don't know if that has worked so great. Brock, like, I think he sometimes gets asked, like, are you going to wear a glove for better, grip on the ball and whatnot? I think, ultimately he usually decides no. I think there's only been like one game where he has worn it. And I believe that was last season. So just not something that they really seem to take into account. And
I
it's a
have to
little
look this up.
frustrating.
We'll have to
Yeah.
look this up of where does it rain in in August, I mean in July, June. Where does it rain? And
'Cause
maybe if I'm Brock, I'm like, you know what, babe? What's her name?
But-
Gianna? Babe, we're heading to wherever the hell it rains because while you're sleeping in, I'm gonna be throwing some balls in the rain. Like this is
Yeah.
also something Brock as an individual could find a way to take that maybe off his plate too. I don't know. I'm all about solution. So wherever I gotta go, whatever I gotta do to play in the rain, that's what I'm gonna do. Let's go.
At this point, there has to be some self-awareness that, hey, like this is an issue.
Right.
There's some things I could do to make it better. Yeah, I agree with you. But as far as Brock and like the contract talk now, that obviously has gotten into full swing with the season coming to an end. We know it's coming. Brock is going to get a deal. It seems like the 49ers have already made that decision. The question is how much is he going to get paid? And people have opinions about that. We do. Steve Young was on a podcast this week and was asked about it. I just want to share a clip of what Steve Young had to say, and I'm going to skip over to
quarterback
loves his game and loves his efficiency and his leadership and everything else. But we got to make sure we have the money to put the people with him to go win it. Because if the goal is Super Bowls, if the goal is winning some rank and file regular season games, maybe get to the playoffs, that's a different goal. And that might mean different. But if you're talking about we want to go to the Super Bowl, we need people to be there to help Brock. And if he doesn't, and so that it becomes just how much is there available? And it is a zero-sum game in some ways with the salary cap. And I think I look at how Tom Brady thought about it. Look at how Patrick Mahomes thinks about it, right? He says, hey, look, I'm cool. I got my money, but I want to have plenty of money. And how many times did Tom every year say, look, I'm going to restructure I want plenty of money to get people that can come help me win Super Bowls. And so just with that mentality, it could all get worked out. If everybody says, oh no, I want every last dollar and I have to set the market, that's going to be a complicated, there's the awkwardness that you just talked about.
Yeah, so it seems like Steve Young has the mindset of, well, Brock should take a discount because he needs all these guys around him in order for this team to be successful. And I think like we're seeing how this season has played out. Like Brock hasn't had all the stars together at the same time. Ayuk has missed most of this season. Christian McCaffrey's missed most of the season. You still have players, but like maybe Brock is someone who does need all of those guys, right? Like I think this season has kind of shed light to that. But this idea of Brock needing to take a discount on his deal, I think is just wishful thinking on everyone's part. I'm very curious to know your take. Of course, we don't love it, right? But like, how realistic is it really?
That's a great question. So, like anything else, you've got Brock, then you've got his agent, right? So I look at Brock, by the way, I'm wearing I knew we would talk about Brock today.
Okay,
so
there we go.
I want a Brock sweatshirt. So I knew we'd be talking about this. And so I think we have the right person who thinks as a team player versus a quarterback who is all about him and getting that dollar and setting the market and ego and all that. So I think with Brock, we have that going for us. I'm hoping that, you are who you hang around, right? So I'm hoping that his agent is on the similar mindset, and that we're not going to be in that legal battle, because he's that guy. So with that being said, I think it would be, we definitely have to pay him. And I know what they're going to say. And it seems to be that what is the cap, 255 or something right now, somewhere in there.
Yeah,
the salary cap,
I don't know
which
the exact number, but
I don't know if we have any newbies, but for anybody that's new, it's like, that's the amount of money you get to pay all your players, right? We've got 53 players, like so, and it seems to me that about 20% of that goes to your quarterback, which is in that 55-60 million, right?
yeah.
So based off it, when we talked about this in the beginning, we're like, this is a $10 million season probably for Brock. I think I said that. Like, how good if we balled out, we end up back in the Super Bowl, there's no doubt we're getting 60 million for Brock. You couldn't refute that. But now that we're not even in the playoffs and his numbers aren't that, then, we're probably in the 50 range, 50, 55 is my guess. But I agree with Steve. I think he said it perfectly. We've got to get people around him. I mean, it's look at this year, Steph. You paid all these guys all the money, and none of them are doing well or in the playoff real contention. Trevor Lawrence, Joe Burrow, these guys set the market, and their team is not winning. So I hope the Niners front office really looks at that. I hope Brock looks at that. And I really do believe that he's that guy that we can negotiate with for the better good of the team. And that's what I'm excited about. I just would be surprised if this became an ugly situation. I just don't see that happening.
Yeah. I don't think so. I don't think it's going to get contentious, like, the Dak deal that lasted until like September, like
so he was walking in the first game. He was walking in.
Basically. And, the 49ers have done that in the past, this past off season with a couple of players. So, I think they've learned their lesson. And I think when it comes to the quarterback position, that's one you need in the building from day one of the off season. You need to have that in place, preferably like before the draft even happens, I would say. So I don't think this is going to take very long. But in terms of the discount thing, I think it's just not Brock's responsibility to be like, if that's what he wants to do, hey, like, good on you, man. But like, I don't feel like he should feel pressured by, what Steve Young is saying or what anyone else is saying, that he should take a discount just because this, that, and the other. I mean,
but see, that's it's interesting you say that, right? I don't look at it as a discount, right? I look at it like, okay, what do I want? And everybody that I know of in the NFL wants a Super Bowl ring. They want their money, yes, but all of them are doing all of this stuff to win a Super Bowl. So take a page out of Tom Brady, take a page out of Mahomes. And I wouldn't look at it like that. And that's what I would be. See, Niners should hire me, right? Because I'd be like, no, we're not looking at it like a discount. We're looking at it like, we want to make sure you have 5 rings by the time you retire. We want to make sure that you, as a child, can say you had your 100% dreams come true. It's not a discount. It's what are we going to do to help you win Super Bowls, and how we're gonna win Super Bowl. I'm good, right?
That is undoubtedly how the 49ers are gonna frame it. It's like, we just want to put you in the best position to be a Hall of Fame quarterback one day, bro.
I'm telling you, I went in the wrong field, Steph. And then we should do that next time. You should be Brock agent. We could play a little game. You be Brock's agent, and I'll be the front office, and let's see how it goes. Hey, girl, I saw her. Tanisha's back. What's up, girl?
Yeah, we got the squad in the live chat. Justin's stoked because he's catching a live stream. So yes, appreciate all of you in the live chat. Now, yeah, like it's just really interesting. Yes, if the team frames it like that, I think it would be like, okay, maybe you are trying to help me. And I also think there's a thin line between, okay, what's realistic for Brock and what's like disrespectful to offer him, right? Like, I think if he were to take a discount, that would be. There's probably a part of it that could be disrespectful, and there's a part of it that could be realistic, and it's Brock, just kind of realizing, you know, I haven't played as good this season. I can't ask for 60 million, this year. Tim Kawakami, one of the 49ers beat writers, he wrote a piece on the SF Standard, and I thought it was really interesting, actually. If you guys check that out, I think you should. It's titled, The 49ers have zero doubts about Brock Purdy's value, but his price is a huge question. And here's a piece of it right here. He said, quote, "People I trust don't think it's very tough to decipher. Purdy deserves a big deal, probably worth over $50 million a year, but well short of resetting the market for the position. The 49ers are sure about him, but realistic. He's their best option at quarterback for now and should only get better as his contract ages. And the 49ers negotiators will also make sure they're protected in some way in case Purdy isn't so good in 2025 and 2026, end quote. I find that really interesting, and I think this is perfect. This is perfect for the team to look at the Purdy deal this way, right?
What did we say? Mid-50s.
I hope Purdy would accept something like that too. Like, yes, maybe a little over 50 million. I think that's reasonable. I think unreasonable is asking for top of the market, right? And we've already seen some reports that that's what he's going for. I have no doubt that's probably his agent, putting some things out there. But I do feel like that's like 50, little over 50 million a year is probably something Brock wouldn't be mad at. I mean, that's still a really respectable
Buy him a lot of Coles. Deal. Buy him a lot of Coles.
Coles cash. Just throw that into the deal. Some Coles cash.
Little khakis. He'll have a whole closet of khakis. Let's go.
All the khakis you want. So also in this article, he kind of laid out a few deals that could compare to what Brock is going to get. One of the models he placed was the Dak Prescott model, and he kind of placed that as a very low % chance of like it actually being that, like what Purdy gets. Then is the Jalen Hurts model, and Hurts is making $51 million a year. Didn't set a record at the time. He's also making a ton in guarantees, $179 million, and that was before the 2023 season. So think about that. And just like notch it up a little bit, right? To take into account how the market has fluctuated within the last year or so. So I think that's a good starting point, and maybe just what he says, Tim K says, probably 5% more or so for Brock. I think that'd be a pretty
don't forget
decent
this.
deal.
And so don't forget that the salary cap is going to be raised as well.
Yeah.
So like if I I know it's easy to say when you're not the one going through everything he's gone through, the last 3 years that he's had, like all of that, and getting paid nothing, having a roommate, having like a Toyota truck. Like I get all that. But I think the question is, I don't even think it's a question. I honestly do think, let's make this deal. Let's make it quick. I believe it's my personal opinion. I think it would be fair on both sides if we're like 55 or between 51, 55 million, probably because the salary is going to be raised. I'm thinking more like in the 54, 55, right? Heavy on the guarantee, but big on the incentives, and make it 2 or 3 year heavy, because the truth is we want him to be our guy. I've been writing him forever since the first time I saw him play. I'm like, this is our guy. The poise, the humbleness, the leadership. The only thing, if we only had 3 more inches on that height, it would just be fantastic. But here's where we are, So I think that there's no question he's our guy. I love Brock. He deserves it. And I think he'll be the guy to be like, okay, if I do this, and I don't know that you can do this, but just thinking out loud, if I do this, if I sign this, who are you going to go put around me? What's the plan? I want to know the plan, right? Because if I'm taking less money, I want to know where that other money's going. If I'm the agent,
Right.
that's what I want. I want to know. And I don't know that we're allowed to know, but I definitely would be asking those questions, because if it's O-line and it's, I feel like we have our wide receivers pretty dialed in, I just, I think we're all about getting Super Bowl rings, and it's not a discount. It's how you frame it. It's how you look at it. And I don't think Tom Brady ever thought he got a discount. He was smart. Patrick was smart.
Here's my thing. Like, when you see everyone else on this team get paid these like crazy contracts, several top of the market deals, why is it solely on Brock to be the bigger man and say, I'm gonna take a discount so that we are in the best position to win? Why did any of those players not take a discount? Right? Like,
you can turn it down.
It's not on Brock to do that. It's not his responsibility to care about the 49ers cap situation. Super Bowls are nice and all that. But, careers in the NFL are short, right? Like, you don't know. He doesn't know if this is going to be his last big contract in the NFL. You got to go for what you can when the getting is good. And the getting is good for Brock Purdy right now to maximize what he can get. And, I'm always pro player getting as much as he can. Of course, I'm a 49er fan as well. I want the team to be in a good position as well. I think there's a happy medium. I think there's a way they can do it where it's good for the team and it's good for Brock, right? Like, yeah. So that's what I hope they do. And, one of the other kind of models that Tim K pointed out was like the Jared Goff, the Jordan Love model. Shorter deals that kind of gave the team flexibility, but a decent amount of money with it as well. Like the Jared Goff deal was, and when he talked about Jared Goff, he's talking about Goff's deal with the Rams, which was a big deal at the time, but it was short enough that it gave the team some flexibility to then in a few years, they moved off of him and they were able to swap Goff for Stafford. Right. Another example he gave, Jordan Love, like the deal he got, which was $55 million AAV, so average per year basically, and $160.3 million guaranteed. And that's a 4-year deal, which is considered, on the shorter end as well for quarterbacks. So that could be something they explore. I think they're going to give themselves, the flexibility to.
They have to
move forward from Brock in case anything happens on the very off chance that you find someone better. I mean, it's not going to happen this draft, but like, I'm just saying you're going to keep swinging. You're going to keep drafting quarterbacks and see what sticks.
Can we be honest, Steph, that we have to also, because I'm all about taking responsibility and accountability as a person, as a team. I'd be like, okay. And somebody mentioned this. Well, you have to pay him over 60 because look at what you paid Jimmy Garoppolo. I'm like, oh, wow, you're taking it there. And look what happened.
I mean,
look what happened. So we have to learn from our mistakes. And I love Jimmy as a person, all that. We're not going to get in the Jimmy debate, but that divided the fan base, by the way. But the problem is we gave that guy over, what was it, 136 million at that time? It was like unprecedented.
It was top of the market. He got top of the market money.
And what happened
after 5 games?
And then what happened? We let him go. What, the following season or whatever it was? Look at what happened with Kaepernick. Look at what happened with almost everybody we've had in the last 20 years hasn't worked out, right? So we have to look ourselves in the mirror as an organization. I always act like I'm part of the organization, but I say, okay, we haven't done well in this department. Okay. So what is the definition of insanity? Doing the same things over and over, right? Expecting, different results. So No, we got to do something a little different. And I think our front office has a real pulse on this situation. I hope. And I think, like you said, I think there's and you're dealing with a guy who's just a good guy. So he's not an ego guy. So I really do feel like it's going to be amicable and hopefully quickly.
I do think it'll be quick. It has to be. Like it undoubtedly has to be. So I hope the 49ers, because they're notorious for this, right? They start with like a borderline disrespectful low ball offer and they work their way up from there.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do that this time. I would just kind of be like,
yeah,
this is what we think you realistically deserve. And like I said, that could be over 50 million and offer that like kind of right off the bat. And I think if that was one of the first offers, it's a good possibility Brock could take that, right? Like, yeah. And he would feel good with that and happy about it. But yeah, in any case, I don't think it'll get contentious. I think it'll happen a lot quicker than some other deals that the 49ers have negotiated recently. But obviously something we're going to keep tabs on, from now until the day it happens.
Yeah.
And yeah, we'll see what happens. But yeah, as far as like Brock, this season and talking about what he deserves and all that, I did see this stat and I thought it was interesting. So Josh Dubois posted this from AP. He said, Brock Purdy went down between 1 and 8 points in the fourth quarter in the regular season or playoffs. He's 33 for 60 for 402 yards, 3 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, 57.8 passer rating. And that would rank 144th out of 160 quarterbacks with 50 or more attempts in that scenario since 2000. This doesn't really bode so well for Brock, but I did see people in response to this kind of say, hey, like this kind of correlates to that one Kyle Shanahan stat. And if you guys recall, it's a stat that has the goalpost on it has moved tremendously to the point where it like at this point we're just nitpicking, but it was like the fourth quarter stat of like, I think it's moved to the point of the 49ers are like 0-40 or 0-40 plus or something like that when they trail by at least 8 points in the fourth quarter. That number, at least 8, right? Like that number has moved so much over the years. It used to be like, when down 6, then it was down 7, and now it's up to 8 or more. It's like, okay, you guys are.
I hate these stats over 20 freaking years old. Just get out of here with that shit. Like the rules were different. Half the players are retired. Like it's just crazy. But the point is made. We are not winning these games in the fourth quarter. We can all agree to that.
Yeah,
like I literally, when we watch the games, I'm like, third quarter, like we have to be up by like 17 to make me feel like a little bit of relief. And even then I'm not as a 49er fan, you're not feeling good in the fourth quarter, period. In the fourth quarter,
season,
we're worried.
This season, they've blown like leads in the fourth quarter. It used to be like, okay, if they're down, we know like it's probably unlikely they come back. But now it's like if they're up, it's unlikely they keep this lead. Yeah, like that's the way this season has gone.
Yeah. You know what it's like? You're gonna hate me for this. Remember Jimmy G in the pocket, happy feet? Like every time he dropped back, every 49er fan would be like,
oh my God.
Like just like you want to close your eyes because you're just like you don't know what is about to happen. That's how it has been for the fourth quarter. Same feeling. You're just like, but the problem is it's not 4 seconds, it's 14 plus minutes, which is really 30 when you count all the commercials. So we've been stressed in the fourth quarter for like ever.
we're losing like years of our life by all the stress this team has given us. But
I'm
yeah, I was
telling you.
curious your take. Like, do you think that's more of a Purdy stat and more reflective of him, or did you kind of feel like that's more reflective of Kyle Shanahan?
I do put fourth quarters more on head coaches probably than I do the quarterback.
It is
And
it is
it's a
a game
tandem.
of game management, right?
It's a
Like,
game
especially
management.
at the end there.
It's time management, it's clock management, it's should we run the ball, should we throw the ball, and those are coming down to your offensive coordinator slash, head coach. So I put more of the fourth quarters on head coaches versus, quarterbacks. However, it is obviously a tandem affair, and that is why there's a lot of talk of the best tandems, head coaches and quarterbacks, because they're on the same page and stuff like that. So, you got to do the plays that are being called, right? So, and the other thing that we have to get better at is obviously, the long balls, right? 20 plus yards. That's where we're also need a little bit of work, because you got to open up the field. We have to be a threat at 25 yards down the field. Right now, we're really not. We're down with these short checks here and there. Right now, I think that's one of the things they're probably, I would think, is like off season. We need to work on these long balls. We need to be a threat. We'll get Brandon Ayuk back. Depending on, where Debo is, Ricky Pearsall, we need to work on separation. We need to be threats over 20 plus yards, because right now we're not, and the defense has our number. So hopefully, we'll get the O-line. We'll get the O-line together so that we have time for these guys to run 20 plus yards. It's all these little pieces that I feel like, I'm hopeful. Let's put it that way. We're still going to have some amazing players come 2025. So
yeah,
that's the good news, right? That's the silver lining.
It is. So yeah, we'll see. There will also be plenty of changes going forward. Now, this is sort of, depending on how you look at it, if you are clinging on to that 1% chance of the 49ers making the Super Bowl, then you're looking at this game against the Dolphins as a must win. If you've kind of like, you're done with that and you really want the 49ers to have the best draft pick they can get at this point. And by the way, as of right now, before
15,
they're 15th, yes, 15th overall pick in the draft as it stands before week 16. So if you want them to have the best pick as possible as they can get with these next 3 games, they would have to lose these remaining 3 games to have the best chance at that, right? Maybe you can slip into the top 10 at the very least, maybe top 12. I don't know, but like, it's not crazy for some fans to want that at this point in the season, right? So you may look at it as a must-lose game if you're thinking about it from the draft position.
This is always hard. What do you want, Steph? What do you want? If you were the head coach and you're the owner, are you taking a dive? What are you doing?
Look, I mean, I always say in the locker room, they got to play for wins. You never go in the locker room and say, hey, we want the best draft picks, so we're going to try to lose this game. You never try to lose a game. As a fan, though, like I think I want a better draft pick. So I'm okay if they lose. I wouldn't say I want them to lose, because I think that's just bad juju, right? But like, I wouldn't mind it. I wouldn't mind it if they lost, because I'm looking at draft picks, right? At this point, nothing else is going to happen this season. You play to win, and you play to win because you want to make the playoffs. Playoffs is not in this team's picture this season, so you might as well play for something else. So yeah, I would say that. Now, with that in mind, the fact that it would be kind of more beneficial for the team to lose than win, I think the 49ers are going to do what they always do when they are in a quote unquote must lose scenario. And that means they're going to win this game.
Oh my God, I lost you for a minute. Hold on.
You got me? Uh-oh.
I
the
can't
Bluetooth.
hear you.
The technical difficulties
Hold on 1 second.
of the Bluetooth. But like,
I got you.
All right. So yeah, I'm saying like, given that this is more of a must lose game than a must win game in terms of like what you potentially gain out of it. I think the 49ers win this game because every time they're faced with this predicament of you want to have a better draft pick, they win the game instead. Like every time.
Well, and here's the thing. You don't want to lose to your old offensive coordinator named McDaniel.
Mike McDaniel. Yeah, I mean,
by
of
the
course
way,
not.
You know what's in our favor is that ever since he went to the perm situation, he has not been winning. So I feel confident that the Niners will win. But I think now you have like egos, you have respect. We don't want to lose to Miami. We just don't. Well, I don't want to hear Tyreek on Twitter or X or whatever the hell talking about. I think we need to build our respect back, right? So this is not a game of, I think, playoffs as much as it is respect for your brother in the locker room and showing what we could be moving forward. And some of these guys have contracts they're playing for, whether it's with us or whether it's with other teams. My whole thing is injuries, man. And here's what I'm going to be freaking out about. Like, when do we take Kittle out? When do we take Brock out? Like, these are things that I'm going to be going crazy because I remember this like before last year when we had, already got that playoff berth and these guys were staying in longer. I remember going, what are we doing? Do you remember? I think I just remember that feeling of like, why are these guys still in? Like freaking out. So the question is, when are we going to take our guys out? Because we cannot have another year-ending injury for our guys. Like, we just can't go through it again.
At this point, that would be catastrophic, right?
We can't do it again.
So, yeah, I think, it's a numbers game too. You only got so many players. There are already some players who are hurt that you can't play. And, looking at this list here, we got the practice report from yesterday. Trent Williams not practicing. And, according to Kyle, it's probably looking unlikely that he plays the rest of the season, given his ankle injury and how that's looking so far. Isaac Arendo, he had the foot sprain, played through it last week, Thursday night. Now he has a hamstring injury. So the injury luck just gets worse for the 49ers, especially as it pertains to their running back room. They're extremely thin there. And then Malik Collins was sick, so he didn't practice. But, the rest of the guys, Greenlaw, Moore, Bosa, Mustafa, Nick Zakel, it seems like they're trending towards playing. But I know you got to get out of here, Monica. So we'll do this last trivia real quick. Yep. And I'm feeling festive. It's almost Christmas. Okay. I didn't get to do a slide for it, but I got my cards here.
I see your stocking in the back. I like it.
I got my stocking, 2 stockings here. So I'm going to do $20 trivia today for the people in the live chat. And I'm just going to go ahead and pick a question here very willy-nilly. And don't look up, the answer, obviously. But let's see here. All right. This is a really tough one. So just, but for $20, I mean, you got to make it tough, right? So Here we go. In what year was the AstroTurf in Candlestick changed back to grass?
Wow.
Yeah, right. That's a very obscure question there.
I don't even know if I remember it ever being turf.
Yeah, apparently.
That could be
so yeah. You guys work that out in the live chat. First person who gets that correct will get $20 sent to them. In what year was the AstroTurf in Candlestick Park changed back to grass? Really tough. Really, really tough. All right, we've got a correct answer here in the chat. Tanisha, 1979. That is correct. 1979 was the year that it was changed back to grass.
Wow.
You know how to get the
girl. I told you, keep saving it.
Get the request in, and I'll send that over to you, Tanisha. congrats and happy holidays. Happy holidays, everyone. I'm still going to do a show tomorrow for the preview show, talking about this game with KP. And then next week, it'll probably be a very condensed schedule with the holiday, but we're trying to figure that out. So TBD on that. I'll keep you guys posted. But thank you so much, everyone in the live chat. Make sure you like this video. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. Audio listeners, leave a rating, leave a review. But for now, folks, have a good rest of your Thursday. For now, peace.
Peace out.